Hello everyone, it's Amira. Welcome back to my channel. I am so happy you're here. You are probably noticing right off the bat that my voice is on its deathbed. Honestly, she is hanging by a thread. I'm not sick or anything. I'm actually completely fine. My voice is just being dramatic. I think she's having a day. She's decided she doesn't want to work anymore, and that's fine. She can do whatever she wants. It's a free country, you know what I mean? I filmed this speed build last night, and when I woke up this morning without a voice, I considered pushing the video off and not recording the voiceover today, but I'm gonna be out of town the next couple of days, and I love the way that this build turned out so much. I'm so excited for you to see it, so I wanted to get the videos pre-recorded before I left, and I really just wanted you to see this because I love it so much, so I'm doing it anyway. If my voice could just hold on for the next 30 minutes, that would be wonderful. I would really appreciate it, and I would buy it a present, like tea with honey or something like that. As you've probably already noticed, this build is for Blathers, who I have mentioned before. He is one of my favorite characters in this game. He has such a deep and strong place in my heart. I just think he is so sweet, and I have wanted to build a study for Blathers for the longest time, and I just have never done it, and this series has provided me that opportunity. So that's what I'm doing. I'm building him a study. This ends up being a 2-level home with some exterior decorations as well. I am starting with the interior today, which is a little bit different than how I filmed the last 2 videos, but I had such a strong idea in my head of what I wanted to do, so I just wanted to start with the interior right away. Going into this build, I had 2 different sort of inspirations in the back of my mind. I had his tent, the interior of his tent at the very beginning of the game. I think that is so sweet. I know as a community, we have pretty much all decided that the tent is the best museum iteration. I wish we could stay with that. I love how his interior looks. I just think it's so sweet. So that was a big inspiration for me, as well as some dark academia vibes. I've never built anything that was dark academia, so this I think is more inspired by that, not necessarily fully going into that theme. But I knew I wanted to use lots of greens and a lot of dark woods, which was hard for me because normally I'm very much a light wood girly. So consciously making an effort to use the darker wood items, that was a little hard for me. I'm not gonna lie to you. So that was my only sort of thought going in. I knew I wanted a lot of books. I wanted to put the maps up, the desk. At the very beginning, you saw me play with the striped wood wallpaper, and that was an idea that was short-lived, but I knew going into it that my plan was probably going to be to use this green tea room wallpaper, and I just think it is so pretty, and it's exactly what I was going for. Then I found that green argyle rug, and I think that was perfect. That matched him so well. So this ends up having 2 levels, the bottom level being this library sort of study situation. So in that back left corner, I give him his own little library with the desk and the books. I end up putting a fossil on there. I put what I imagine to be his degree on the back wall. I knew I wanted to use that fossil poster that I'm putting as well. Then I put that plant up on top of the bookshelves. I just kind of wanted it to be its own little nook. Oh my God. There is a very loud buzzing noise coming from outside of my apartment, and there's quite literally nothing I can do about that. So if you hear that at this point in time, just know I'm sorry. I'm apologizing for it, and I wish it was gone, and I'm sorry if it's annoying. Anyways, then I decide to use this, what is it called? The Zen dresser or something? I don't remember, but I feel like it looks very exotic, and I thought maybe he's traveled a bunch of places looking for these fossils, and so maybe that was something that he picked up along the way. I used Rover's briefcase again. He's ready to go at a moment's notice because he gets a call that we found this fossil on the other side of the world, or maybe he just got back from a trip. I put that skull looking thing there, that's a fossil that he found. I ended up using that antique map. I thought that looked really nice, and I put that fossil on his desk. I just think it is so sweet, and I really feel like Blathers' personality is all over the place. At the beginning of this build, I was trying to keep it very organized and neat because I thought maybe he would like to have all of his ducks in a row and have all of his books in a very specific place. And while I think in my head Blathers aspires to be incredibly organized, I think he is so in love with the idea of fossils and just so research obsessed that he ends up collecting too many books and papers and artifacts to really keep them all organized. So this ends up a lot messier than what I was originally going for. I think he just has his findings all over the place, and he's constantly looking at maps and research books and textbooks, and they just have created quite the mess. So in my head, he wishes he were super, super organized, but alas, he just kind of throws things all over the place. And maybe he's a little embarrassed about it too, right? Maybe because I said this in my last Typo in Paradise build, but I ship him and Sable. I ship him and Sable so hard. I just feel like they would be the cutest couple. And so maybe she comes over and she's like, oh my goodness, Blathers, let me help you organize this. And I just feel like that would be so sweet because I think he's such an anxious boy. I really, really do. And I feel like she would help him with that. Now I'm trying to put in some seating, and that ends up getting moved around kind of a bit. I end up putting a chalkboard in here because also in my head, have you seen that meme of the guy with his whiteboard and all the strings? I'm going to put a picture of it on the screen now. I feel like this is how Blathers is when he gets really into the topic of fossils. Like if you were to really let him ramble, I feel like this is how he would be. Or if he's looking for a specific type of fossil, I feel like he'd be like, we found these bones here and we found this artifact here, and I know that this new one has to be in this. I don't know. Am I making any sense? I feel like he goes a little bit crazy with his love for fossils. So that is kind of what I imagine in my head for him. And that's why it gets a little bit messy because he gets so obsessed. I put a little coffee cup in here. I also toy with the idea of putting a picture of Brewster in this build because clearly they're just such besties and he wanted him to move into his museum so bad. Maybe he's a little obsessed with him too. I don't know. I don't end up putting a picture of Brewster in this build, but just know I had that thought. So there's his chalkboard, and I feel like this is where he like plans out all of his findings and where he maybe uses some red string to draw some conclusions. And I also think maybe he leads a class. I don't know. Maybe people come here and this is where he teaches them about fossils. I just think this build turns out so, so, so cute. That couch ends up getting moved to the other side of the room because I couldn't really figure it out. But the coffee, I feel like he goes days without sleep. I feel like he's so into his research and his fossils that he all of a sudden has realized I haven't slept in 4 days. And he's nocturnal, right? So he's forcing himself to stay awake through the day, and he just needs his coffee. And Brewster, maybe Brewster has provided him with this super strong coffee that allows him to stay awake for days at a time and just research and work on these findings. I don't know. I had a lot of fun coming up with like lore in my head about Blathers and what he must be like and what his home might be like. I don't end up actually putting any sort of living spaces in this build. Both the bottom and the top floors are very research and like book filled. In my head, I feel like I didn't do this on purpose, but now thinking back on it, maybe his house is so stuffed full of research and artifacts and what he needs to do his work that he's like, I don't even have room for a bed or a kitchen or anything like that. He has his couch, and if he really, really needs to sleep, he sleeps on his couch and he calls it good. But he just is so into his work that he doesn't even have room for that. Now you're seeing me toy around with the boxes, and I started thinking it would be, I think, kind of fun to pretend that these are like artifacts for the museum that have been shipped from some other countries or other parts of the world to put in his museum. So I end up putting a lot of crates outside too with that same sort of intention. Like these are really delicate fossils or pieces of art or something like that that have been shipped over to him to end up putting in the museum, or for him to maybe do some more research on, maybe to decide if they are genuine. Maybe someone has shipped him some art and he has to decide if it's genuine or not, right? With the red plot line, maybe he really hates red and people have been starting to ship him artwork to decide if it's counterfeit or not. I think that's kind of funny to think about. So I think the reason that I had such a fun time with this build was just creating this like whole storyline in my head. So I put down those papers on the floor, like those are ideas that he had. I believe actually my thought process with the papers was, I thought maybe he was writing like a manuscript or a textbook or I don't know, a guide, maybe a field guide. Yeah, that's what it was. He was writing a field guide to find fossils, and those are like papers or like ideas that he scrapped, and that's why they're on the floor. So that is the whole sort of storyline for the bottom floor of this build. I'm absolutely in love with it. I really feel like the colors and the decorations, I feel like they suit him so well. I'm actually like so proud of this build, which I feel like it's pretty rare that I'm this proud of a build, you guys. Normally I'm like, oh, that kind of sucks. Like I could have done better than that. But I feel like for an office and a study place for Blathers, I really feel like I pulled it together. You know what I mean? I'm really, really proud of this. So I end up putting like a tool shelf over where that chalkboard used to be. And then I put a broom and dustpan there as well. And in my head, that's where he stores all of his tools to go out looking for fossils. What's the word? Like excavating? No, I don't know. You know, when you see those videos of people looking at fossils and they have those little brushes and they're like delicately brushing the dirt away from the fossils, that's what I imagine the broom and dustpan to be. So it's not a real broom and dustpan to sweep the floors, it's to go and delicately brush dirt off of fossils. And then I put a shovel because obviously he needs a shovel. And then I don't know, whatever else he might need to go dig up fossils, I feel like is on that shelf. So I am coming up on the end of this first part of the build here in a couple minutes, so I will kind of let you finish watching the end of this portion, and then I will check back in when we head upstairs. All right, and here we are getting started with the top floor of this build. And like I said, there is no living space for him. There's not a bedroom, there's not a kitchen, there's not a living room or little apartment for him. This top floor ends up being a outdoor or like partially outdoor library, rooftop library, with the ability to look at stars and research the constellations and all of that stuff. And I know that's technically Celeste's thing, but she's not here, and I don't know, I think that's his sister, right? So I just thought I would give that to him here. So for the majority of this part of the build, I think I'm going to use that like brick wallpaper you see on there right now. In my head at the beginning, that wallpaper resembled in the Harry Potter movies, like where they store the owls when they're not being used. That's like a crazy thing to say, I know, but I wanted it to feel like almost an attic that had a hole in the wall. So I end up going with like the concrete flooring, and like he turned this broken down space basically into a place where he can watch the stars. I end up later choosing the like library wallpaper, and I go with like different flooring, and I turn it into a library with a really big open window for him to look at the stars. And I just think it is I love the way this top build came out with the like dark lighting and the stars. I used those wooden partitions to make like a balcony for him to look at the stars with, and I changed the size of the room so that like the depth is a lot smaller, like it's more of a balcony kind of than a full room. And then I use that Moroccan footrest, and I have more papers. I end up using lots of books. Like I said, I use the library wallpaper, so I put books all over the place. I just think it turns out so sweet. So while we watch me try to figure out this library, balcony, star, observatory situation, let me air out some frustrations I have with you, okay? I'm not frustrated with you, let me be clear. I am frustrated with my own island, Westport, which is literally 99.9% done. My plan was to post the tour of that island on Sunday so that by Wednesday we could start a new island together. And you know what? I think I'm going to do that regardless. The issue is that Static and Hazel are refusing to leave. You guys, I have spent hours of my own life trying to get these villagers to leave, and they are, I don't know if they're obsessed with me, if they're obsessed with Westport, if they're obsessed with some villagers on the island. Static and Hazel will not leave. Hours, you guys, I spent last night, I spent hours. This morning, I spent hours. Like, I had to put it down because last night I had to film this speed build, and today I had to put it down so I could record this voiceover, and they just won't leave. You know who keeps asking me to leave? Boomer and Grizzly and Sally. The three of them, even Dottie a few times has asked, and she's wanted to leave. Static and Hazel, not a word from them, not a peep. And I'm going out of town tomorrow, so I need it to be done today so that I can film the tour. So I guess my plan is if I can't get them to leave by a specific time, then I'm just going to have to customize the exterior of their homes and we can pretend that they don't exist, okay? They're like the town villains or something. And they're both squirrels. Isn't that crazy? I'm just so sick of them being there. I wanted Piper and Dobie to be on Westport so badly. And as of right now, it's looking like that's not going to happen. You'll know in a couple days because I'll post the tour. But I'm so frustrated. I'm so frustrated. I can't get them to leave and I don't know why. And I've looked on every like Reddit page. I have looked on like Discords. I've looked on everything and it's all completely random and there's nothing I can do to get them to leave. They are hanging on. They're hanging on for dear life and I want them to go so badly. They do not fit the aesthetic of Westport. I'm so annoyed. Anyways, there are my frustrations. You'll know on Sunday if I got them to move out or not. Oh my God, I'm so annoyed. But if they want to stay, I guess they can stay. I can tell I'm getting to the point where I'm going to be like over it soon because I just want to film that tour. And if they refuse to leave, then they can be there and we can pretend that they're shunned or something. They can live there, but we're not happy about it. And I want them to know. Anyways, this is where I start kind of going back and forth on like the same section for kind of a while. So I got that right side of the room figured out pretty quickly with the telescope and the Moroccan footrest and the books and all of that. It is this left side that I go back and forth on for a while. So I thought maybe having a bookshelf would add some dimension to the wallpaper, but I just thought that ended up looking kind of awkward. I end up going with this stair dresser because like it says, it looks like stairs. And so I thought he could use that to go and get any books he needs. And I thought that would look really sweet. And then I end up going back and forth with some seating for quite a while. This room is super small, but that left half of the room, I don't know what it was. I just feel like it was looking awkward for a while. I couldn't figure out what I wanted. So I wanted to put some chairs here. I do end up going with a chair somewhere. I don't remember where though. But it took me a while and that's okay. I feel like all three parts of this whole build, the downstairs, the upstairs, and the outside, I get like the general structure of what I want the room to feel like pretty quickly. It's the details and the placements of like specific items that I end up going back and forth on quite a bit. That is what takes me the longest time, I think, in this build is just, I get like the geography of the build pretty fast, but placing specific items is where I lose it a little bit. This is where I start playing with that candle and the candle ends up staying. I really feel like it's really cute. Like he comes up here and he has to use a candle because there are no lights up here because he's looking at the stars. But it's the placement of all of that I go back and forth on for what feels like literally forever. So once again, I think I'll just let you finish watching the rest of this portion of the build because now it's just me figuring out where I want to put that candle and that chair because I really like the way that chair looks. It just takes me a while to figure it out. So I'll let you finish watching that and then I will check back in once we head outside. And here we are. The final portion of this build is the exterior, and I chose to build this home on a different lot than I built for the last two videos. The last two, I chose that really plain, flat build. I feel like it's a really nice backdrop to kind of do whatever you want because it doesn't lean too far into one thing or another. This one I knew before I even started I wanted to build it on this lot because I knew I wanted him to be able to look at the stars. And so I thought if I put him right on the edge of this really like pointy cliff, that would make a lot of sense, right? Because he needs a telescope, and I don't know. I felt like the geography of this whole lot lended itself to someone who's stargazing. But I could also just be crazy, so you never know. This is another one of those times where I spend way too long on the exterior of this home. Oh my gosh, I could not figure it out. And to be honest with you, it doesn't even matter what it looks like because I set the time of day to be at nighttime. So you can't even really tell what this home looks like once it's dark outside. I just got so stuck on it and I couldn't figure out what the exterior of Blathers' home would look like. I felt like I nailed the interior to match his personality so well. And once I got out here, I was like, well, I did so well on the inside. I can't not do well out here. I have to match it just as well as I did on the inside. I went back and forth in this for a really, really long time. I was getting really frustrated with myself. And I think sometimes the longer that I deliberate on things, the worse that it gets because I don't even remember what things look like anymore. My brain starts to melt a little bit. I don't know. Let me know if you can relate to that. But sometimes I feel like the more I go back and forth, the more I can't make a decision. And I feel like that's kind of what ends up happening here. I start looking at different shapes of homes and I go back and forth on the roof and the door. And oh my gosh, the whole thing just took way, way, way too long. It was at this point too that I think I was hitting the like hour and a half to 2 hour mark on this build. This whole thing took me a while because of the 2 floors and then the exterior. Part of me considered not even doing the exterior at all. And then I was like, no, I need to complete this build. I owe it to all of my friends to have a full complete build. So here we go with this outside. You will see me continue to deliberate on this for the longest time. I will kind of explain what ends up happening with the whole exterior of the build. I go with a lot of cedar trees, kind of foresty hilltop. And then I have a section with some crates, like I said earlier, like some artifacts had been shipped in. And then I have a section with bugs. And I know Blathers hates bugs. And part of me was like, no, don't put them here. He hates them and he will hate you. And I love Blathers too much to do that to him. But I also know that that's part of his job. He has bugs at the museum. And so it's literally 2 bugs. I use, I think, like a grasshopper and a cricket because they end up in that like pretty bamboo crate. And so I have 2 of them there with like a net and a bucket. I don't know. I have a whole little collection of items that I end up using. And they're outside. And I feel like he has to keep them outside because he doesn't want them in the study. And he knows he has to do it for his job. So he sucks it up and he does it just like we see in the game. But just know, I went back and forth on that in my brain. I was like, should I put these bugs here? Or should I give him his dream of a world with no bugs? And I decided, no. He works with bugs on a daily basis. We need to have the bugs. So I knew someone was going to be like, Blathers hates bugs. Why would you give him bugs? Well, because first of all, I thought they looked cute. And second of all, he works at the museum. He has the museum. He needs to have a couple bugs. I end up putting like a big patch of dirt. Now you're seeing me put the trees. I just think this whole thing ends up so pretty. Yeah, so that's the exterior that I go with. Like I said, you can't even tell what it looks like because it's dark outside. I put that fossil like door plate on there because that just seemed like an obvious choice. Anyways, now you can kind of see the random shape of dirt pathing I laid down take form. I'm not really sure what I was going for here. I end up really liking it. I have learned something about myself, which is I really like the random blobs of dirt path. Well, recently, I think we can all agree that I have just fallen in love with dirt pathing in general, but like specifically in these really weird, no specific rhyme or reason blobby shapes. I don't know. I think they look so cool. I really, really like that. And then I had this brick code on this switch that I used on the dirt as well, which I think turned out super cute. Now you'll see me try to place these bugs. And again, like I said, I deliberated on this for a while, but I end up putting them to like the southern right hand portion by that collection of 3 trees. And I just think, I don't know. I know he doesn't like bugs, but I liked him there, so they stayed. Also, I would just like to say, I just like a few minutes ago aired out my frustrations about not getting Hazel and Static to move out on my Discord. Like, I know I just shared that with you here, but I also put something in my Discord, like, I'm just so frustrated they're refusing to move out. And the amount of like helpful tips that people have shared, and like, have you tried this? Have you tried this? Oh, look at this link to this like article, not article, I guess, but like the step-by-step process. And I know that we all try the time travel method and stuff like that, but there are some specific tips and tricks that I didn't even know about, and just some very helpful people are in the Discord server. So I know I plug this like pretty much every video at this point, but seriously, it is such a wholesome community over there. People are so nice, and they're so willing to help you if you are having a hard time getting stuff figured out. And so I highly suggest you go and check it out. Even if you never post something on there, it's nice to know that there's a place for you to talk about things. It's a safe place to vent, or to share struggles, or to just say hi and talk about your day. So plugging it once again, if you need a spot to hang out and make some friends, the Discord that we have is really nice, and I highly recommend it. So thank you to everybody in my Discord who has been sharing helpful hints with me. I really appreciate every single one of you. Anyways, now I had the idea of trying to place like a little fossil digging site. It doesn't end up staying. I don't like the way the dirt path looks next to the other dirt path. So, but it's something that I tried. You know, you got to try things, trial and error. I had somebody leave a comment, like I think yesterday, asking how I plan out my islands and my builds, and I really don't. I feel like the more I do these speed builds, the more you'll kind of see my process, which is I don't have a process. I just try a bunch of stuff. Like I just tried a potato farm. Why would Blathers have a potato farm? I don't know. You try things and then they either work out or they don't. So I move that shed over to the right side, and then I start trying my hand at some natural stuff. That is kind of my go-to when I can't figure out a build. Just fill it out with some more nature, and hopefully inspiration will strike. I end up putting a telescope in the back left corner. I play with a few fencing options. I thought maybe having the rope fencing would look kind of nice. I actually don't even remember if I end up keeping any fencing at all. I don't think I do. I thought the rope fencing around the artifacts would look kind of nice though. Like, hey, don't touch these are Blathers, but I just didn't have the space for it. And like, as I'm sure you know, fencing requires such a specific amount of space around the items to use it. And that's kind of annoying sometimes, because I wish it could be right snug up against the crates, but there would be this like awkward space around the whole thing. And then I thought that looked kind of silly. So I'm pretty indecisive about the placement of all that stuff. And then more bushes, and then the wheat field, and oh, I used the deer scare, which I feel like is a really random item to use, but I thought it looked kind of nice. The whole exterior honestly ends up being pretty simple. I don't go crazy on like filling every single space, which I know I've said before is my new sort of love in Animal Crossing, is the minimalistic I don't know, in-game grass and not filling up every single tile. This build is by no means a minimalist build at all, but I feel like it is more minimalist than like my island Westport is, and just more minimalist than I normally build like in general. I usually do tend to fill up every single open space. So the fact that there's a bunch of dirt that's just like open and you can still see the in-game grass is pretty minimalist for me. So we're working our way to be more minimalist. We're on our journeys, our minimalist journeys. And I think I did pretty well. We are going to wrap up this speed build within the next couple of minutes, so I will thank you all right now for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing. It really would mean the world to me. I post new videos every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. Wednesdays are build videos on my own island. Fridays are Happy Home Paradise speed builds like the one that you just watched, and Sundays are island tours. Thank you so much to all of my channel members. I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for your support and your kind words. I cannot express how much each and every single one of you means to me. Thank you for being here. Other than that, you guys, that is all I have for you today. I hope you are having the most wonderful day, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. I will leave you here with some screenshots of the finished build, and I will catch you later. Goodbye.